I'm glad to introduce our guest from Denmark, the talented, successful prose writer Tine Høeg.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Tine. Very
Hello.
nice to have you here. Okay, so it started in 2017, am I right?
Yes, absolutely right.
And you published your first novel, which was called New Passengers,
Yes.
and you got the prize for the best debut prose book.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me, how was it? How was it? Do you remember the day when you found out about the prize?
Yes, I was screaming that day. It was really such a big honor for me. And actually, at the time when I wrote my first novel, I was working as a high school teacher. So I didn't really, it wasn't my full-time job to be a writer. So the fact that I won this prize gave me a little bit of money to start from. So I actually quit my job afterwards, and I was just praying that I would be able to make ends meet and keep on writing. And I think I had maybe enough money for 2 or 3 months, and then I was like, I'm praying that something good will happen. And as a matter of fact, I haven't. I've managed to live as a writer since that day. So it really had a big impact on my career that I won that prize. Really, yeah.
I remember John Irving telling that he was dreaming to quit his daytime job because he wanted to write more than 4 hours a day. And after he quit, he told that, oh my God, I'm not able to work more than 4 hours a day. So how was it for you?
I agree with that. I think that it depends on where you are in the process. But when I'm writing the text, not editing, then I can do that for more hours. But when I'm writing, I think that after 4 or 5 hours, I'm kind of I don't have anything more to give, and the text I write is really bad, so I have to stop and do something else. But I think that quitting the other job made space in my mind to think about text all the time, and not having to kind of be split up in my mind and do something that isn't as passionate to me as writing.
So before you thought that you will be a teacher?
No, I've always dreamed of becoming a writer, but I think that I didn't really know if it was possible. And for a long time, it was something that I did in secret. You know, I've always written a lot, also as a child, poems and songs and novels and short stories. It's in Danish. Novel is novel, so it's different. I always mix it up. But short stories, but told no one about it. So it was something that I did in secret. And I studied at the university, and I had this kind of dream of becoming a writer, but I didn't tell anyone about it. So it was. It seemed something that other people would do, but not me. So it was. It was a bit late that I found out that maybe this can happen to me as well. Maybe it's possible. So I didn't plan to be a high school teacher all my life. I had this dream that someday I would be able to quit that job and write full time. But I'm very happy that I had that job, because my first novel was about a high school teacher. So I used the experience and the life I had at that time as kind of what I was writing about. So I'm grateful, because otherwise it wouldn't have been that novel, and I wouldn't have won the debut prize. And so everything's
It's beautiful, and big news, very, very, very big news, because nobody knows yet that Tine has just got a Netflix deal. Could you tell us more, please?
Yes. My third novel was published in Denmark last year, and And then Netflix is making a movie out of this. It's called, in Danish, Sult, which is hunger. I still really can't believe it when you say it. I'm like, really? But yes, this is happening. So it's very, very big, and I'm so excited about it.
Could you tell us more about the process, how it happens? I want somebody to call me early in the morning telling that I got a Netflix deal. That would be pleasant.
Yes, I don't really know if I feel like I haven't actually done anything to make it happen, but write a great novel. and I haven't been ringing bells or calling anyone. So I think that because my two first novels received a lot of attention, and they were both adapted as plays at the Royal Danish Theatre. So there's been much attention when I publish something. So actually different producers were interested in the manuscript to the Hunger book before it came out. And then I could actually choose from two different producers who I wanted to work with. And then two very talented directors who worked together. They wanted to make the film, and then Netflix paid for that to happen. And now I'm just waiting to see the results. So yeah.
Are you already rich, or you will be?
No, I'm. When I sit here, it sounds like I'm such a big success, but it's I'm not rich. No,
she's not even rich.
But I can. But now, for the first time, I'm able to not worry about money for the next couple of years, and that means a lot. So in that way, it feels like I'm rich in a way, because I have more money now than I've ever had before as a writer. Not before that, but yeah. So, and I think that to me, money is always. I always think about time when I get money for something I do. I always kind of translated how much time does that buy me to write. So in that way, it's really, really nice right now to have to don't have a time limit, if you can understand that. I have all the time right now that I need to finish the book I'm working at right now. So I feel very privileged.
New novel, okay, new novel is coming. And this is the novel we are here for. Through the chambre.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
Yes. So it's published by Rara, a lovely small production house, and translated by the translator and poet Jaunystė. She's there.
Woo!
I really loved the idea that you decided not to change the title, to leave it as it is. So what does that mean? Tour de chambre, what's that?
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's French, and it sounds French, but actually it's a Danish concept. And it's sort of a party you throw when you are young and live at a dormitory, I think you call it, where you kind of go from one room to another, and each room has a theme, and you drink a lot of alcohol. And in the end, you are so drunk that you can't really remember what's happening, but that's kind of the concept. So it's a Danish party game or party concept, which was very suitable for the book, because it takes place in a dormitory between young people, and this party plays a very central role in the story. It's kind of a culmination of a lot of different things, a lot falling in love, that kind of, and death. Also, these two things kind of are mixed together, linked together, and this party at the end of the book. These two things meet up and have a very fatal outgoing, or what? Yeah, I don't know the word, but yeah. So it's the tour de chambre scene of the novel is very central. But then there's also I'm interested in the kind of going from one room to another, going from one kind of life stage to another, kind of these making these transitions, or going from somewhere to a new place. And I use that pattern in different ways in the novel. There are two different kind of. You meet the main character Asta when she's 30-something, and then you also meet her at this dormitory 10 years before. And each time the novel kind of switches from one time to another, it always happens in a room. So it can be you enter an elevator being 33 years old, and when the doors open, you step out and you are 23 years old and live at a dormitory. And so I make these kind of switches in a room each time. So and that's so the title has a very concrete meaning, but also I use that in different ways throughout the novel.
It works very well. Have you read the book already? Yes.
Wow.
Yes. The publisher says yes, at least. At least you did. Very short for those who didn't. So what is the book about? I took it from the back of the English edition, more or less. So Asta, the protagonist, is invited to a memorial. It's been 10 years since her university friend died. The invitation shakes everything. The novel Asta is working on and her relationship with her best friend Mai. It turns out that Asta no longer wants to write about the Polish sculptor. Instead, she wants to write about what happened, what really happened, the night of her friend's death, a story she has never dared to reveal to Mai, to her best friend. Have you already heard how the novel sounds in Lithuanian?
No. A very, very, very short bit. Yesterday, I was out with my translator and editor, publisher, and she wrote it very, very quickly to me. But I would really, really love to hear some more of the Lithuanian. Yeah.
They asked me to read something.
Yeah, and I'm so pleased that you said yes.
Okay, so I can do it. It will be in Lithuanian. Is that okay for you?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't wait.
I don't have enough hands. I have to turn myself into.
Should I hold the book for you? Or
no, I will survive.
Okay.
I will survive. Okay, so I'm not reading from the very start. Just I chose a small section here, but promise me that you will read it in Danish after I finish my horrible part.
I promise.
Okay, thank you. Aš rašytoja. Rašau savo antrą knygą. Romaną apie Lenkų skulptorių Lisandrą Milo. Sėdžiu prie kompo su ausų kamštukais, kaimynų bute daro kapitalinį remontą. Milo dirbo cemento fabrike. Bydgošč mieste 7-ame dešimtmetyje. Vieną dieną prapuolė, buvo 23. Ir dideliam Rūsy žmonės rado virš 100 cementinių biustų, kuriuos jis paslapčia sukūrė. Jie vaizdavo dalį fabriko darbuotojų. Po poros metų Milo pasirodė Varšuvoje. Nepaprastai išgarsėjo, tada vėl dingo, dabar jau visiems laikams. Bydgošč, varge, kaip tai ištarti? Pamasažuoju smilkinius. Statybininkai dirba jau 3 savaitės, lipdami laiptais dunksi savo apsauginiais darbo batais nuo ankstaus ryto. Sweet dreams are made of this ir visų garsų leidžia radiją, šiandien jie gręžia.
Wow, thank you.
This is Lithuanian, okay.
Yeah. I will just make a short comment because it's I get very moved when I hear my words in a different language. I can't explain why because I don't understand it, but it's I think it's very fulfilling to me to experience that even though I don't understand the words, I can hear that there's kind of sort of music in it or rhythm that is familiar to the one that I've tried to make in my writing. So there's something that's so moving for me actually. And I do that when I write. I always read the text out loud to myself many, many times. And it's the only way for me to know if the text is good enough, if the text is done. It has so much to do with the way it sounds. So it's really interesting that I can hear that has been translated into your language. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Eva, for translating.
Yeah, really, really wonderful job. I will just find the same passage here.
You need some help.
No, I think here. Jeg er forfatter. Jeg skriver på min anden bog. En roman om den polske portrætkunstner Lysander Milo. Jeg sidder ved computeren med ørepropper i. Min nabolejlighed er under total renovering. Milo var ansat på en cementfabrik i Bydgoszcz i 1960'erne. En dag forsvandt han, 23 år gammel, og i et stort kælderrum fandt man over 100 byster af cement, udformet i hemmelighed. De forestillede et udsnit af de ansatte på fabrikken. Et par år senere dukkede Milo op i Warszawa. Han fik et kolossalt gennembrud, før han forsvandt igen for bestandig. Bydgoszcz. Hvordan udtaler man egentlig det? Jeg masserer mine tinninger. Håndværkerne har været i gang i 3 uger. De tramper op ad trapperne fra tidlig morgen i deres sikkerhedssko. Sweet dreams are made of this. Og med en radio på max. I dag borer de i noget.
Thank you very much. Sweet dreams are made of this was a mark. Now we can understand each other more. Before me reading this book, some people who already read it told me that you will be surprised. And I was just like, how? I mean, and they are like, you think that it's a really thick novel, then you open it and you start doubting, maybe it's even poetry, or maybe not. And when you start reading, it's some kind like, the feeling is like scrolling Instagram or something like that. The story is just flowing. How you reach that level of, I don't know, of maybe self-confidence to develop your own style, which is not, it's not a usual novel.
No, it's
That's
not.
what I mean.
And I really love the fact that I can shake it up a bit. What a novel has to look like, and it's the exact same reaction in Denmark, especially with my first novel, who has a similar way, which was the first novel that kind of did that. That people had that reaction. Oh, that's not for me. I don't understand poetry. Wasn't it supposed to be a novel? And kind of this very skeptical reaction. But then it's so fulfilling that as soon as they start reading, it kind of folds out as a full novel, even though the words are very few. It's very, to me, I love that I don't know if you can, but there's a lot of, I just opened a page where there's only one line of text on each page. And I think it has to do with the fact that I use the blank space or the pause as part of my vocabulary. It's as important to me when I write than the words. It's almost even more important than the words itself. And I think that it allows the scenes to. I consider the scenes of the story that they are not quite done before they meet the reader's eyes, if you understand. So. When I do what I do, I only give as much text that is needed for everything to kind of pop out in the reader's head, and that's an interesting way for me to write. How few words do I need to make this as full as I want it to be, and I never feel like I'm compromising with what I want to say. I feel like I can say it in the best way, writing like that.
It might seem that it's easier to write such a book, You don't have to write something long, very long, no, But it isn't, and we talked to the translator, and she was just like, okay, first of all, I thought that it shouldn't take long. And then she started translated it and realized that to translate this, you need the highest level of precision for every line. And it looks like you put a lot of precision, a lot of work to every line to put everything into 3 or 4 years, 4 words, or maybe, I don't know, 1 word and a gap of 2 pages. So it's not so easy. This is what I mean.
Not easy at all. And I think people can make that mistake that because it has kind of this, as you said, fluent way of reading it, kind of you get soaked into the text, then you think it's easy to write, but it's really, really not. And I use a lot of time choosing the right words, choosing the right way to combine them. It's often like that in the text that you read something and you don't know at first, is this something that's being said? Is this an observation from Asta? What is this? And then it's not until maybe 7 lines or 10 lines later that you find out, this has to do with that, and this is something this person said. So it's to me, writing it's sort of creating a puzzle, and everything has to be in exact the right place. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense when you read it. So it takes a lot of work. It's very I love it. I love that work, but it's very complex. And it's quite funny because my Danish editor has told me that after I published my first 2 novels, who had this weird genre that people hadn't really seen before, they received quite a few manuscripts who tried to do the same. But it didn't work, and that was actually nice for me to hear that even though it looks simple, it's the exact opposite. Yeah.
Yes, it's a compliment. It would be really very hard to copy that. Aspiring writers don't do it. It won't work. Okay, is it true, I read it somewhere, that you started all this just with 2 voices in your head?
Yeah, it's almost every time I start a new novel, I don't have that much to go from at first, and with this one, I knew that I had kind of the place, the dormitory, and I wanted to do something that combined this age where you are very young and everything is possible, everything is kind of it's spring, everything's it's desire and everything's growing and everything's possible, and then I wanted to have death kind of like a contrast to that. I knew that, and then I had these 2 voices of 2 women talking to each other, and actually the way I got started with writing this novel was to just let these 2 women talk. I just wrote what they were saying to each other, and I didn't know the story yet. I didn't really know the plot. I just knew that I was interested in them writing each other, and that's I always do that. I don't have a plan. If I know where I'm going, if I know the plot beforehand, it's kind of like the text dies to me. There's no fun in writing it if I know where it's going. So I have to start in a much more intuitive way, where I only have maybe a place and 2 voices, and then I will see what happens from there.
Do you generally like being a prose author today in 2024? Is it still romantic for you?
I love it very much, yes. And I like to, I think that, and that's also a big part of this novel, to kind of use the different ways we communicate now and try to bring that into the literary universe. I use a lot of Facebook text messages in this book, and the way the 2 main characters, Asta and Mai, communicate is a lot in their writing each other. And I think that has to do with this time we're living in, where, as to me, a lot of my relations with other people go through writing them. It's and it can be quite deep relationships, actually, that deal with a lot of very important stuff that we write each other. And I think it's interesting to try and bring that into the novel and kind of not using the traditional hierarchy between what is high literature and what is low, because you would think that a Facebook text message doesn't belong in a novel, but I like to bring it there and kind of make it the same text as the other texts in the book. And yeah,
of course, it's just dialogue. We use that kind of dialogue every day, sometimes even more often than we really talk to each other.
Yeah, and what's interesting in is that it enables me to sometimes the characters write something to each other, and then I can show in a scene that what they have written is not what they're doing, or do you know that it kind of gives me some different levels of communication that is very interesting in evolving the story.
I heard a very funny writing advice that if you want to write better and you want to write more, write to that word processor as much as you write into Facebook chat every day.
Good advice. Yeah.
You would write a lot. You studied Danish and philosophy at university, am I right?
Yeah.
And I heard that Denmark has a strong creative writing program.
Actually, not at that time where I was studying. It's more and more common, but it didn't at that time. So it was something that I did on the side and not really talking to anyone about it. But actually, it was during my studies that I discovered that one of the other students in my class was writing in secret as well, and we started a small group where we showed each other poems. As in Tour de Chambre, there's also a very important scene with Asta and August, who she falls in love with, where they kind of share their texts, which is a very intimate situation. If you write something, showing that to another person is extremely intimate. And that also becomes kind of the way they fall in love has very much to do with language and words, and it's the same experience to me that sharing text with other people is kind of like stripping naked or something. It's really, really intimate, and that happened to me in university. That was the first time I told someone that I was writing some things. Yeah.
Is she still your friend?
Yes,
that girl?
She's still my friend and a writer as well. So we both kind of made it.
Is it the best friend? Who is the best friend?
No, that's
the dedication.
Yeah, no, it's not her. Yeah, no.
Oh, pity. Oh, that's a pity. But coming back to what it means to be a writer in 2024. It looks like that the portrait of a writer is shifting a little bit. For example, 20 years ago, here in Lithuania, the writers were more like Ernest Hemingway, like hanging out in the bars, drinking a lot, being sarcastic, smoking heavily, and so on. Now we are more like Haruki Murakami, running, all that healthy lifestyle, spirituality, and so on. Who are you more, Hemingway or Haruki Murakami, or maybe somebody else?
Yeah, somebody else, I think. I think that there's still very different types of writers as different types of people, but I think that there's been kind of this myth that a writer is someone who can drink and smoke and walk around and kind of wait for the inspiration to come down and kind of a bohemian lifestyle. And I think that it's not like that, to me at least. And I think that there's a lot of, it takes a lot of discipline. And I think Hemingway had that too. I don't think that I think it's a fiction that you can just wait for the inspiration and don't have to do anything about it yourself. But I think that it takes a lot of discipline. And actually, I have to be much more disciplined now that this is my primary job than when I was a high school teacher and the money just came in and I didn't have to kind of do that much and structure my life as much as I do now. So to make it work, you have to be good at that as well, and getting up every morning. And even though what you write is really rubbish, you have to keep on going until it becomes good. So I think that that's at least the experience to me. And then when that's being said, it has to do with discipline. It has to do with hard work, but it also has to do with something else that is the closest I get in my life to kind of metaphysical experience when I write. And it's very interesting because I have to kind of get through that sitting down, doing something that isn't working, and then suddenly something begins to work, sound right. And when I'm writing good, something is happening that I feel like isn't only me. Something with the text kind of does something itself. I know it sounds very weird, but that's the experience I have, that I do something that I know is coming from me. It is my mind, it's my fingers that are typing, but the text, when it's good, when I'm done with it, there's something there that I wouldn't have been able to imagine before writing it. So, and I don't understand what that is, and I really don't. But it's because I don't think it's something that's coming from above. I don't know what it is. I think it's what happens when you do art, that there is this very very interesting place where it's both me and at the same time not me.
I know them. They are little writing angels.
Yeah.
They just come to help you, but there are also the demons fighting with your inner writer. Tell me how you usually kill them.
Yeah. I think that, to me at least, that when I have to start a new project, a new novel, I have to go through a quite long period of time where they are with me all the time, these demons, and everything I write is really, really bad, and I wouldn't show it to anyone. And I have to do that, and it's the worst time for me as a writer. It's the beginning, because I don't know what I'm doing. I have this idea, this very vague idea, and then I just have to do so much bad writing. And these months, maybe even half a year, is really, I don't like my job at that time, because it's very difficult. But suddenly something is happening where I get to a new place, or some of the things I've written that are bad, then there's maybe one sentence that I can use this, or it gives me an idea that takes me a new place, and then suddenly it's everything is it becomes kind of it evolves in different directions, and I feel like I'm growing a garden of ideas, and it becomes I'm in a very good mood at that time. And then when I have to finish, it becomes horrible again, because now I soon have to show the text to everybody, and it's not I can't stay in my own secret room with the text anymore. So the best time for me is in the middle of the process, where I still have a lot of writing to do, and I have gone through the worst beginning. Yeah, so actually it's not, sometimes I think it's not that much time I get to be happy with my job. Yeah.
Okay. What I noticed reading your novel was that you take a very small detail, but somehow I can imagine a bigger picture. You use a lot of markers, a lot of details. And so are you the person who is stalking everyone just to take something from them and then put it down on your page.
Yes, you have to be aware I'm doing it right now.
God, no.
No, I think that I do collect these kind of details walking around, and I think I've done it all my life. But now I write them down. Also, often even though I don't know how to use them, but I can see something that I think is interesting. Actually, in the book, there's kind of a scene where Esther is at a grocery shop, and in front of her is a woman standing, and her hair kind of gets I don't know the word, electricity. You know, it kind of lifts up the hair, and that is something that I saw in Denmark standing in line, and there was something interesting about that. So I wrote that down, not knowing when to use it, and then suddenly 2 years later, maybe it pops out in a scene I'm writing. So I do that. I collect images and also sentences people say. I'm very interested in the way we. I'm not as interested in metaphors as I am in the everyday language, and I like to give the everyday language space and kind of making it as poetic as a metaphor, if that makes sense. And I think that's in the common language we use every day. There are so much poetry, actually, if you know how to look for it and if you just listen carefully. There's also a scene in the book where Asta's looking at a football game. And I've watched passed by a lot of people playing football in Denmark, and always wondered what is it they're saying to each other? These very specific words that come out from the players running around. And I wanted to put that in a novel and give it a lot of blank space around it, so it could be kind of has a lot of meaning to something that we listen to every day and maybe have never thought about. So I do that not because I want to do it, but I maybe sometimes I'm like a camera that kind of just collects things all the time.
I read in one interview you told that you often get inspired by supermarkets. You go to the supermarket and get inspired there.
Yeah. And as a student studying Danish, I had a job where I had to sit with headphones and doing transcriptions of interviews with people from all over Denmark, talking about random stuff. It was at a language center who were doing a lot of I kind of had to. I wasn't doing I don't know the English word. It wasn't me that studied what they were saying, but I just had to kind of be a machine and typing everything down. But I think that I had to be very, very specific in writing down not what you think is being said, but what is actually being said. And that is not always the same. When we talk to each other, we often can finish each other's sentence because we know what the person is meaning, but or wanting to say. But I always think it's interesting to listen to what's actually being said, and I think that I got very good at that from that job where I sat many hours a week just listening to people talking to each other. And later I found out that there was a very specific system, a very specific way we had to write these interviews down with a lot of blank space, because the ones who were doing the scientific work with all this language had to be able to see all the words. And I can't help but wonder if maybe doing that had an influence in my way of writing. I don't know, maybe. Yeah.
Great. Okay, do you know that the plan of this interview is divided into 3 parts?
Yes, you told me that.
Yeah, so this is very important. So the first part was about books, more or less. The second one was about writer's life, more or less. And the third one, it's written for me exactly what I have to tell.
Yes.
And I will do it now.
So excited, yes.
I follow you on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I found more about you there than in any serious interview.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And I noticed that you became a mother recently and got married, so congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
How do you balance everything?
Yeah, it's very funny because I thought that becoming a mother would be kind of a threat in a way to my writing because I wouldn't have as much time as before. I'm used to writing very different times of the day. Sometimes I write at night and and what I found out was actually that now where I only have these very specific hours of the day where I'm able to write, I use them much more intense than I did before. So in that way, the practical in the practical way, it actually did something good, I think. And also, to me personally, it's very fulfilling and And also my third novel, Hunger, that I talked about before, the Netflix one, has to do with wanting to become a mother, having difficulties doing that, fertility treatment, a lot of things that has to do with motherhood, and also maybe some of the dark sides of this longing, this hunger to create something. Both actually creating art. It's also about creating art, but it's also about the longing to create a child. So in that way, it's a very, very big part of what I write. I can't really separate that from the writing. So it's had a big impact in many different ways.
Oh, but it's nice. I mean,
it's nice. Very, very nice. Yeah.
And also on Instagram, I noticed that your home is very beautiful.
Thank you.
You have really nice style. I mean, it's Danish. It's very nice, and you have really nice fashion style as well.
Thank you. I like
really
the way this is going. Yeah.
I put some hearts on your photos. And
I noticed. Thank you.
She also follows me.
Yes, I was about to say that, but yes.
But she will unfollow me after this conversation, I think.
I know.
But anyway, how important is it, in your opinion, for a novelist to be interesting as a person? Because you look interesting, just like look at you, shiny, beautiful woman.
Thank you.
And is it important nowadays?
I think there is a pressure to kind of do all those things with social media. My publishing house has kind of a guide to how to do that, and I've always been like, I don't want to be any part of that. And I think that, to me, it's always very, if a writer isn't comfortable with all that, I can tell immediately, and I think it's then you shouldn't do it. I really think that kind of pressuring people to do that is nothing good comes from that. And I'm very happy that that the way I am is good for my career, if you could say it that way. But I never feel like it's something that I'm doing to get further in my writing or to. But I know that it helps a lot, and I'm grateful that it feels quite natural to me, and that I have a lot of fun doing it, and that dressing in colors and having a home full of colors is something that I know I would do either way. Even if nobody saw me, I would do it anyway. But I know that it has a big influence on kind of bringing the book out there. But in a way, it's the same as it feels very, to me, how the book looks and how it feels is also important. And I don't think I think there's been earlier maybe a book would be, the worse it looked, the more the more no colors are on it, the finer in a way, the better it was. At least in Denmark, there has been a tendency to that, and I think it's very nice right now that we are not there anymore. That it's all right to think that it matters what the book looks like and feels like. That it's a kind of and that reading a book also is an experience for your senses, not only what it says, but also the way it looks and the way it feels. That it's kind of an experience that has more levels. So I think that's, and I'm interested in that as well as I am in dressing up in colors and
But you mentioned that I guess the publishers, the marketers, are telling the writers to dress in some
Maybe
way.
not dressing in a way, but putting their book on Instagram and making it visible. It's that I mean. It's not how they dress at all. People don't interfere with
because
that.
I wanted to call them and ask for help.
Yeah, no, not that. But there is I think they want people to make their books visible on social media. Yeah. And yeah, I think don't do it if you don't feel like it yourself. You should never be pushed to doing that.
I read that Instagram is also a source of inspiration for you. For me, it's a source of procrastination. So how do you use it for inspiration? How it comes to you?
I think that I take inspiration from a lot of different places, and I think it has to do with what I mentioned before, that to me, the way we write each other on Messenger can be inspirational. What people say in the grocery shop can be inspirational. What I see on Instagram, a photo, or maybe somebody writing down a sentence from a poem. I follow a lot of literary content, can be inspirational. So I think it has to do with not having this hierarchy of what can inspire me. Yeah.
I think somehow that if you want to represent yourself, you can do it, but it's obvious that when you are not doing that naturally, in a natural way.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can tell that people are not comfortable. And I'm very happy that I've done some concerts with this book where I collaborate with a musician and I read out and he's playing guitar and we play for a big audience. And I like that as well. I like being in my own room writing the book with no one interfering and just sitting with my pajamas on and just being in my own kind of universe. But I also like being here, for example. I like meeting readers. I like reading out the text. I like the way it sounds. I like taking the words into my mouth and pronouncing them. I like kind of the extrovert side as well as the introvert side.
You have two sides, extrovert and introvert?
Yeah.
And you use them both?
Yeah, I do.
That's so nice. That's so nice. Okay, now as we are about to wrap up, I should probably ask about the next novel you are working on.
No, you shouldn't. You
Please.
should never ask anyone what they are writing.
Please.
Yes, you
okay,
can.
At least tell us what you are trying to do.
Yeah, you can ask. But I think to me, it's for a long time. I don't really talk about what I am writing because when I try to put it into a few words and present it, it sounds very, very bad and boring. It's always that feeling I get that if I try to speak of it before it's almost finished, then I can kind of ruin it to myself. So I don't like doing that. And but I can say that it is something very different from the 3 previous novels. And I also like that every time and it's not because I sit down and think, now I want to do something completely different, but that's how it ends up, that I want to do something new, and something new comes into my mind. And so both kind of the way it looks, but also the themes are different. Yeah, and that's all I want to say about that.
Thank you very much. But look, you spent one evening in Vilnius already.
Yeah.
Have you seen a bit of it? Do you like it? Please tell us you like it.
I like it very much. I've been taken very good care of. I've been around with my translator and the publishing house here, and they've been very nice, showing me the old city. And we were on this big hill, 3 crosses, I think. Yeah. And I think it's very different from Copenhagen. It's to me, it's more beautiful. It's more. The colors are very different. It's not as modern in a way. The buildings are more traditional, and I really like that. So, yeah. And I'm pleased I have a couple of hours tomorrow as well to just walk around on my own and seeing some more. And yeah, so I like it a lot.
So welcome to Vilnius, and thank you for your conversation, and thank you for your books
Thank you.
and the reading and everything.
Thank you.
And thank you.